Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle is a game that is almost 10 years old. 10 years of one of the most successful Dragon Ball games on the market. However, during those 10 years, Dokkan, while it may have provided a fantastic game, has made a lot of good, bad, and absolutely horrible decisions, which we will document today on the Ultimate Dokkan Battle Iceberg. For the uninitiated, an iceberg is pretty much a giant trivia sheet. Starting at the top, very commonly known facts that you can ask anybody on the street about, and they'll be able to answer the question to that fact. However, going all the way down to the bottom, you'll reach some of the most obscure facts that even some veterans of the game might not even know. Folks, this is going to be a long one, so make sure to strap in, grab yourself a snack, a drink, and join me for the Ultimate Dokkan Battle Iceberg. Dragon Ball Daima. Since 2022, Dragon Ball has not actually had any new official media release in terms of advancing the series, discounting the manga of course. However, in 2023, Daima was announced, and in 2024, on October 11th, Daima will be released. And in addition to its release, Daima will be getting content added to Dokkan, Legends, and a bunch of other Dragon Ball games to help promote the series. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to turn out to be released. All the way back in 2017, the global and Japanese version of Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle were actually 6 months apart in terms of content releases. And funnily enough, back during August of 2017, the first time the games ever got content together was around August of 2017 for the first annual worldwide download celebration. However, this release was not without its very strange oddities, and that oddity is the fact that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta came out of both versions at the same time, which is of course very exciting. However, on the global version, he did not actually have his leader skill. On the Japanese version, he led the fusion category, which was a new meta the Japanese version was entering at the time. Global, being 6 months behind, just entered an old meta, and in a way to keep game balance in check, they decided to release Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta without his leader skill. This, of course, did not sit well with players, and even to this day, the echoes of this mishap from Dokkan are still heard. Dokkan has not done anything like this since, and hopefully will never do anything like this again, especially now that the games are on the same timeline. Dokkan Airlines. All the way back in 2022, at the end of the year to be precise, there's a glitch found inside the game where if you turn on airplane mode at certain intervals when loading in, you could actually multiply your stats of your characters if there was a turn going on. It's unknown what was causing this, but constantly turning on and off airplane mode repeatedly made the numbers go higher and higher and higher. This was such a problem because players were actually able to go in and complete all the game's content with little to no problems. Using even the default End Cyberman, you could one-shot any boss in the game. Dokkan, of course, did not take kindly to this, and had this fixed, I believe, within a few days, though the damage was already done as so many people have completed all the content. Dokkan didn't actually hand out any bans regarding this, despite threatening to do so. However, though, people who use this in the new burst mode got their scores revoked. Enemy sprites. If you know anything about Dokkan Battle or have seen any of its animations, you know how bad the enemy sprites look. For some reason, Dokkan does not decide to do anything about updating these sprites to make them HD and look really nice. This Vegeta sprite you see on screen was used for a premium unit released in the year 2024. Personally, the sprites aren't the biggest deal ever, though Dokkan taking great strides in improving these sprites will only help the game in my opinion, as characters like AGL Vegito Blue actually got its own new Vegito Blue sprite instead of using the same one from 2017. Even major celebration characters reuse sprites occasionally. Hopefully Dokkan in the future just decides to make new sprites for all upcoming characters and maybe retroactively adds those new sprites to old characters. 2023 power scaling. Many Dokkan fans consider 2023 to be the worst year in Dokkan history, and this is due to the fact that almost every single release outside of a major celebration had extremely undertuned kits and were extremely bad and wonky characters, only good in specific scenarios for the most part. Characters during big celebrations for the most part were pretty good. However, those not so fortunate to be released during these big celebrations heavily struggled. This was a problem in the beginning of 2022, but quickly corrected itself later half of the year. And this wasn't a real problem in any of the other years in Dokkan history. 2024, I'm happy to report, does not have this issues. In fact, the characters are insanely busted this year to hopefully make up for last year. Pity system. For the longest time, Dokkan was actually a stranger to pity. Pity was only becoming very popular within the last few years, as these games can get really expensive, and a lot of these games are seen as gambling, so the way to counteract this, they add a pity system in. Most gacha games do. So it's usually a very high amount you need to spend to be able to guarantee yourself a copy of the new shiny unit. Dokkan honestly strayed away from this, and they even answered an interview that they're never going to add one in, and that one wasn't being considered. Thing is though, about 8 months after that interview, when Ella Rubrien came out and in Spirit Bomb Goku on Global, they actually added a pity system, which was very cool. You needed to spend 1,000 stones in order to guarantee yourself a copy of the unit, and every third multi guaranteed you the featured unit all the way up till pity. A very solid pity system if you ask me. Following that up about 11 months months later, when the worldwide of 2024 hit, they actually introduced another new pity system for Dokkan Fest units, as this pity system that was used for the LRs was actually not used for Dokkan Fest, only yellow coin LRs, which were being quickly phased out by Carnival coin LRs, which is why I believe they added this in. However, them adding in pity for Dokkan Fest banners is great, though it's about 4 times worse, literally, as you need 500 coins or 2,500 stones in order to hit the pity. Dupes of SSRs can of course be counted, and it all does share across the 4 banners for the worldwide, but it's still far from perfect, but in my opinion it's better than nothing, and them even having pity in the game is a win in my book. Inconsistencies. Dokkan and consistencies don't go well together, however Dokkan and inconsistencies do go well together. From naming issues, from linking issues, from just a myriad of issues and things that just don't make sense, Dokkan is just nothing but a stranger to being a very consistent game. The game is based around RNG, which I guess kind of unironically plays into that fact, but Dokkan is very inconsistent and it can honestly be frustrating sometimes. Raditz. Any Dokkan fan's greatest fear is Raditz. Raditz released in the beginning of 2022, and if you remember my 2023 power scaling entry, I just talked about that the releases in that year were really bad, and in the beginning of 2022. Well, Raditz was the April Fool's Day unit released in 2022. Whether it was intentional or not, Raditz is by far the worst premium unit ever released in this game's history, being unbelievably underpowered, dying to year-old events when he came out. He was okay for Super Battle Road if he had an item up where he can AoE and crit all the enemies, but any character can look good with items. Raditz was so bad he became a meme, and to this day he is still touted as the worst release in Dokkan history, and people just call him Goditz in a satirical way just to show how bad he is. It's honestly scary to think his EZA could be coming up next year. Physical Ultimate Gohan. If you've been around the Dragon Ball block, you're probably pretty aware of this, and probably my next entry, which is Beast Gohan. Physical Ultimate Gohan released at the tail end of 2022 with a transforming orange Piccolo to celebrate Dragon Ball Super Superhero releasing a few months earlier. Though the celebration was not without its plights, and the first problem with the celebration, of course, was Physical Ultimate Gohan being extremely underwhelming as a release character, while Orange Piccolo just towered above him in almost every single way. Not only was Ultimate Gohan extremely underpowered, but he couldn't even transform into Beast Gohan, despite when their art revealed implying he could transform. The only thing he can do is actually use an active skill which transforms into the beast form temporarily, but you cannot actually control Beast Gohan like you can with Orange Piccolo. This did not sit well with Dokkan fans, and for good reason. You're not actually controlling Beast Gohan, you're using it for a measly active skill, which actually does not even hit that hard anyway. Even back then, it didn't do that much damage. Such a beautiful animation, being so weak on an underpowered character, caused an uproar in the Dokkan community. And for over a year, Dokkan was clowned upon and just dunked on for not actually having a Beast Gohan in the game. Even Toshi himself at 2023 Battle Hour said they were the only Dragon Ball game with a playable Beast Gohan at the time, throwing some shade at Dokkan. Thankfully, a little over a year later, Dokkan corrected their mistake during the 9th anniversary and released the most busted character to ever grace the game, STR Beast Gohan, with some great looking Dokkan original animations and some solid looking animation, completely terrorizing the game every single which way till Sunday. Fusion Zamasu name. To add on to the fact that 2023 might be the worst year in Dokkan history, debatably, depending on who you ask, the Fusion Zamasu name incident definitely does not help its case. If you're not aware, in Dokkan Battle, characters with the same name cannot link together. During the 2023 Worldwide Download Celebration, the half-corrupted version of Zamasu got an LR, and he can actually transform into Infinite Zamasu, which is really cool. The problem is his name. It's just Fusion Zamasu, which actually conflicts with this Zamasu you see on screen. These two cannot link together despite being different characters in every other Dragon Ball game. Universe, Breakers, Legends, and all other Dragon Ball games have this Zamasu labeled as half-corrupted, but Dokkan does not. Thus, these characters can't link together. This Zamasu is actually a Zamasu released 1 year prior, was actually okay at the time the character came out. And because of this, these characters cannot link together, and a huge uproar sparked all over social media trying to get his name changed, and it never did. Dokkan since then has not had any egregious issues like this. For example, a Beerus was released during the 9th anniversary, during where Beast Gohan was released, who had an actual new name called Beerus with pajamas in parentheses, so he could link with other Beerus. So hopefully this issue won't happen again in Dokkan, or they just allow characters with the same name to link. AGL Vegito Blue. While we're talking about the 2023 Worldwide Celebration and the disaster that it was in the beginning, AGL Vegito Blue is the cherry on top of that sundae. In the beginning, released with Zamasu, was actually a blue Goku and Vegeta who could fuse into Vegito. The problem with this Vegito Blue is the Goku and Vegeta's animations, while in my personal opinion aren't absolutely god-awful, they don't look good. They definitely look extremely dated. Their intro reuses shots from their super attack. The super attacks are missing frames. Honestly, the 12 key drags on for far too long. This unit isn't very fun to use in their base form, which is what their fusing is for, right? Well, the problem stems from the fact that their condition is god-awful, which doesn't sound so bad, until you realize that this character, after their second rotation, is god-awful outside of the first slot. And even in the first slot, they're a heavily risky character, as they only have a 50% chance to evade enemy attacks. If you put 2 and 2 together, you're going to understand why this character is so hated to this day. They were okay for when they came out, with the content release being really short content, but after the 9th anniversary hit and introduced a bunch of new long content, this character completely fell off a building, which really sucks because the Vegito Blue aspect of the character is actually still good to this day, even getting nice stuff like guaranteed dodge. Super easy A's. Extreme Z Awakenings by themselves in Dokkan Battle are a feature introduced way back in 2017 as a way to make old units compatible with the new content in the game. Extreme Z Awakening and its successor Super Extreme Z Awakening are awesome features in order to increase the longevity of units released in 2016 up until modern day. Both these mechanics are fantastic, but unfortunately, Super Easy A's seem to not really be as common as we would like, as at the time of this recording, the last one we got was Physical Goku Black in June of 2024, which is extremely concerning. I really hope they don't just abandon this mechanic. Internal code mess. Dokkan was of course released in 2015, and it is showing its age horribly. Every year that passes, every month that passes, new nice looking games get released, and this game, compared to them, is just not even fair. It's like comparing a PS1 game to an Xbox Series X game or something like that. It's going to get really bad if this game does not do something to improve its GUI. Loading times are slow. The game's extremely clunky. Sound effects are outdated. The card art is in 480p, despite Dragon Ball Legends releasing 3 years later having gorgeous HD art. And I love Dokkan's art too. It looks fantastic. It just needs to be able to be in HD. Give us an option to maybe download it in HD. The problem is this game's already 15 gigabytes, so they're probably scared to do that. The point of this entry is this game is a disaster internally and even externally in some factors, as we'll get into. World Tournament. Speaking of disasters, this mode is one of them. Imagine the most grindy, absolutely nauseating mode known to mankind, and you got the World Tournament. Dokkan honestly is a pretty fun game to have on the side. You can use auto mode to grind out content, super attacks, or even just run it in the background and maybe grind some equips or something like that. Well, unfortunately, the World Tournament spits in the face of that, and you are glued to your phone for multiple hours, clicking the screen over and over and over again, needing to pay attention at all times in order to not lose your streak in the World Tournament. I'm not going to go into how the World Tournament works, but what you need to know is you cannot take your eyes off that screen until you hit at least 30 million points. Otherwise, you are severely hurting your account because there's very limited time units in this mode, which you cannot get anywhere else. LR Kid Buu. Something not even funny is LR Kid Buu. For some reason, despite having LR Saiyan Saga Vegeta, Full Power Frieza, and Full Power Cell, we don't have an LR Kid Buu. It's 2024, we still don't have one. Dokkan, what are we doing? 300 stones. I don't feel like I need to talk about this, but I'm going to anyway for the Iceberg's sake. Back in 2017, when Physical Super Vegito came out and Physical Kefla, when Dragon Ball Super was still airing, a banner was released to commemorate the episode which Kefla debuted as a banner in Dokkan and a summonable unit, while the Physical Super Vegito banner was up back in October of 2017. The thing was, though, when that Kefla banner released, multiple Japanese players reported not seeing characters in their unfeatured pool. This was a visual glitch to my knowledge, but that issue got so bad that the Yahoo of Japan actually decided to write an article on it, and Dokkan got so much pushback that they leaked the internal design of their code to show that it was just a visual glitch and there was nothing malicious going on, heavy foreshadowing. And in addition to this, distributed 300 stones along with refunds to every Japanese player who summoned on the Kefla banner, and all Japanese players just got 300 stones as an apology for the massive issue. The issue with this whole thing, though, is only the Japanese version got these stones. The international version did not. And you can imagine how this went. We still hear about it to this day. This will never be forgotten. Dragon Ball Legends. Dragon Ball Legends is the other Dragon Ball mobile game, alongside Dokkan Battle, that was released 3 years later. Dragon Ball Legends is pretty much just the antithesis of Dokkan. Dragon Ball Legends is not very casual, it's a PvP-based game, though it was made with the feedback apparently from Dokkan. Funnily enough though, despite that being a thing, Dokkan and Legends don't really acknowledge each other's existence that much. In fact, they hardly ever did. Project Multi. Speaking of Dragon Ball mobile games, this is soon to be the third Dragon Ball mobile game. At the time of this recording, a playtest just ended for the game, and it looks to be doing really well. I feel like this will be a very worthy successor to Dragon Ball Legends as the third Dragon Ball Z mobile game. Or fourth. Rest in peace, Bujigiri. Cell Max. As the main villain of Dragon Ball Super Superhero, Dokkan, when that movie came out, actually released an event in which Cell Max was a boss battle. However, he was never made playable, and that is until almost 2 years later in June of 2024 when he was released as a summonable LR. And funnily enough, this Cell Max actually rivals what Beast Gohan does in the game. Beast Gohan is more defensive, while Cell Max is more offensive. Cell Max also refers to the fact that this is the only game with a playable Cell Max. Chance to guard. Every Dokkan player's favorite mechanic. Characters only having a % chance to guard. SCR God Vegeta, for example, only has a 50% chance to guard. This doesn't sound so bad until you realize you can't actually tell if a unit is guarding or not if it proc. You just have to hope it did. And I'm sure you can see why this is such a big issue. You put God Vegeta in slot 1, he's not guarding, well, you just instantly lose. This makes these characters extremely unreliable and questions why you would even bring them unless they bring something to the team other than their possible guard. 480p art. As I talked about earlier with the internal code mess, this game for some reason compresses its art to only 480p when they clearly have HD assets of art all over their social media platforms, which shows that they're definitely interested in showing their HD art. They just can't. The game size is so big. I understand that budgetary things, allocating budgets to certain resources and areas of the game, but they have got to do something about this game's file size and doing something about just making this game more modern. I don't know what they can do, but they gotta do something. I'm sure Bandai Nakatsuki could think of something. Int Goku Black. More on the topic of thinking, Int Goku Black is something they didn't think with. Int Goku Black was an EZA release during the great celebration of 2023 worldwide download celebration. Sarcasm aside, the celebration was alright, you know, minus that whole nonsense with content, but that's besides the point. Int Goku Black was the last EZA, if I'm not mistaken, other than the LR successor to this card, of that celebration. He is laughably bad. In fact, he's compared to characters like Fizz Raditz. For some reason, he stacks defense, which is good, but he only gets his additionals against heroes, and at the time, there was no hero enemies. The only tough content was really the Ultimate Red Zone, which is against the antagonists of the Dragon Ball franchise. Titles. Some nice flavor you can give your Dokkan account is titles. Titles were introduced during the 7th anniversary, or the update right before it, in which you can actually unlock titles by completing various content. Most titles are all the same generic, ugly text, just like with weird font, backgrounds, and all that stuff. But occasionally, during big celebrations, Dokkan goes all out with titles and makes them look really nice. Other. Back in 2021, a huge update was released to the game, which actually split super attacks into 4 different types. Originally, it was 2 with Ki Blast and Melee. In 2021, they added Other and Weapon. Weapon's understandable, but Other is just an ass pull in being able to make enemy bosses have other super attacks so certain characters can't counter them. There's no other reason, no pun intended, why Other needs to exist. Attempt limits. Speaking of not really needing to exist and just making things more complicated than they need to be, attempt limits. So, if you're not aware, most content inside a Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle is limited behind attempt limit. For example, the Supreme Magnificent Battle and Ultimate Red Zone content pieces are all limited to only 5 or 6 attempts depending on your power level. This doesn't sound so bad, but until you realize that a lot of these matches can actually just come down to your opening rotations, and putting 2 and 2 together, and there's a few other entries we'll get into later, it turns into just a roulette of whether you get lucky or not in the beginning of a match, if you're going to win or not. New summon animation. Dokkan for the longest time, since 2019 all the way up until 2022, was this a stranger at adding new summon animations. They just didn't do it, which really sucked. However, when Superhero came out, consistently during big celebrations, they would actually add new summon animations. They added Superhero animations, Future Saga animations, and even Broly movie animations. Tech Trunks. Tech Trunks is referring to the disaster that is the Tech Super Trunks release in August of 2023. For some reason, they decided to pull almost another Fizz Raditz in his base form and making him ungodly bad with the worst restrictions you've ever seen. For some reason, he needs to run 3 Android/Cell Saga units on his team to get most of his passive active, despite his banner unit releasing and doing nothing to provide any value to him, as that banner unit was god-awful on his own, and that was the only Android/Cell Saga unit released during his celebration other than transforming Vegeta's EZA, who's just about as good as Int Goku Black is. Devilman. Devilman is a very interesting SR card in Dokkan Battle. In Dokkan, when you do the World Tournament, you actually get some tickets, and those tickets can be used on a prize banner, either SSR Guaranteed or Dragon Ball Saga Summons. On the Dragon Ball Saga Summons, you can pull this SR Devilman, who whenever he supers has a 1% chance to gain 1,000,000% attack to be able to one-shot any boss in the game. This sounds woefully broken, because it is, but Dokkan's way around this is by banning this character in all events. For some reason, they just don't want this being an actual option, despite most events being multiple phases long, so he would need this to proc multiple times, and he would need to get Devilman to that phase to even give it a shot. And at that point, just let the person have it, man. You're not completing missions with this guy. Later on, they actually released an SSR version of Devilman, who can actually awaken to a TUR as well, who actually has a very similar gimmick with really rare chances for damage, but it's just nothing compared to the SR. At least this one isn't banned though. Unit naming. Just like the Fusion Zamasu name disaster situation, unit naming is something Dokkan is not good at. For example, look at this Gohan to you. Does this look like a teenager? Nope, he is not. This is adult Gohan, but he's called Gohan Teen. Feeds into the whole inconsistency thing I was talking about earlier and just makes the game it's not a good look for the game, especially considering just how archaic a lot of the stuff in this game is. Just old stuff to balance out the game by making characters the same name. Dokkan, we need to step up, man. Speaking of stepping up, the friend system. The friend system has notoriously been god-awful ever since the game came out. Only have they done very few things to make the friend system better in recent years. In 2018, they added the whole friend supporter thing. At one point earlier, they added the refresh button. And then, sometime in the 2020s, they actually added a feature in which you can actually use a leader, in which that leader was used to complete a stage as a dev friend, which actually did solve the friend system issue for a while. So the only problem is a lot of bots and mods actually complete all these stages, as botting and modding is actually a big problem in Dokkan at the moment, and those characters are actually set as the dev friends. This actually overwrites those actual players who complete these stages, meaning the friend system is a disaster once again because there's only so many spots a dev friend can take. This leads to the fact that summonable units you pay real money for can actually not even be used because you can't find a friend. You can't mirror your own friend for some reason, because they're just so scared of that being a thing for some reason. It just makes no sense. Chain Battle. Chain Battle was a mode released in April of 2020 for Golden Week of that year. It was a really interesting spin on Dokkan. It was a lot different than the actual gameplay itself. It retained its PvE nature, but it was a very fresh spin on the game. The only problem with this mode is it relied on your friends, and as you can tell by the friend system, that is never a good thing. Funny thing is, this mode actually had amazing rewards similar to the tournament. In fact, I personally believe Chain Battle had better rewards, but we're getting off topic here. Chain Battle was a mode in which you just selected a few characters. It was pretty much an autoplay mode. You didn't have to actually have to do anything other than select your characters pretty much. The thing is though, it lasted 39 iterations before it was canned in early 2024. The sad thing about Chain Battle being gone is that introduced with Chain Battle were actually equips, which you can put on your character. Being able to reliably get these equips was something that was very useful for many players, and being able to make their characters a lot stronger. But unfortunately with Chain Battle gone, you can no longer get those equips, and instead what you need to do now is grind a really awful version of the Whis event, which used to be pretty good. You can grind it infinitely now with even worse drop rates. And the even more sad thing is they actually had unique art drawn for the bosses of Chain Battle, which now there's 39 just unused arts just sitting in the game data, just never being used, which sucks because a lot of them look really nice. Operation Schedule Unification. Hinted at this earlier, but the schedules are actually synced. For almost 10 years, Global was 6 months behind JP. Well, now, after the worldwide download celebration of 2024, both versions will be on the same timeline. Yippee-ki-yay, man. I'm really happy about that. Power level. You can actually strengthen your account power level, which is just an artificial number to show how strong your account is. The problem with power level, though, is it's pretty much predicated entirely on link leveling, and it doesn't really show the strength of your box, just how many times you run through the same quest mode stage, or how many orbs you use to boost up your character's link skills. Int Goku. This Trio My Goku was the third base Goku released in a short period of time, and as I was going over with the whole naming issue, character with the same name cannot link. You can imagine how this went, considering how this Goku can't link with the 2 other base Gokus released in close proximity, and the fact that this Goku was by far the most underpowered, despite personally being one of my favorite cards. I love this guy's animations, his OST, his voice lines. He's a really cool card, but he's so underpowered, and it's just such a shame. If they just released this guy a year later with updated stats, he would be looked at so much more favorably, man. Version differences. Despite the games being unified, unfortunately version differences remain, and those version differences don't look like they're going anywhere. Certain characters, such as this Easy A Goku Black, for some reason have different stats. Just a bunch of little things like this exist on some characters. Even like Angel Cell and Angel Frieza have different stats on both versions. And even version difference exists in the fact that Global actually has a exclusive shop section which you can buy special merchandise, whereas JP does not have this. Which is honestly a real bummer, because these version differences, despite the games being on the same timeline, is going to lead to a huge wedge in the community for these games, I assume. Because, for example, the Japanese version will get top grossing even sooner than the global version will, for no real good reason, when they should just get rewards for both when either store hits it in either country, or either version. I don't really see the need to have a difference between the two. Diamond backgrounds. Every Dokkan player's worst nightmare is these diamond backgrounds would ruin the illustrations of the card art. Just make it an option to turn it off, Dokkan, and we're good to go, man. Biz Rosé buff. This physical Goku Black was actually released on the international version back in February. This Rosé, though, when he was released on the Japanese version, was actually buffed since the global version came out, which is actually very weird because this Rosé also got its own banner unit when he released on the Japanese version as well, whereas the global version didn't get him. It just seemed like he was released on the global version earlier to build hype, when he was actually changed and corrected to his final form on the Japanese version. Thankfully, the banner unit followed suit very soon after his Japanese version release, while also getting his buff on the international version soon after as well. This physical Rosé with his buff is a lot better and a very cool unit if you ask me. Domain/standby. Something that's cool but not practical in a lot of senses is the domain and standby mechanics, both introduced in 2023. Ways to change the game by making it so you play differently, standby is making it so you completely change how a character functions, and domains completely changing the environment of characters while giving them new effects. Both these mechanics are really fun and unique ways to spice up the gameplay, but unfortunately don't differentiate themselves enough from each other in the fact that you can actually not overlap these effects. The problem with both of these mechanics are that if a character releases with this mechanic, the character that last had it will be aged out much faster than they would normally be aged out. Even something like an Easy A would be the only thing that could save them at that point, because why would you run a worse version of that mechanic, which makes that new character a lot better, when you just be buffing an old character for no real reason? It's just really bad design, and hopefully they address this soon. STR Jiren. Like in Goku Black, STR Jiren was an Easy A release in 2023, yet another really bad power scaling entry for that whole debacle. STR Jiren was woefully underpowered when he came out. He's okay for something like Super Battle Road where enemies can be stunned, but I assume Akatsuki did not want him being too broken because of that guaranteed stun he has in his passive, as that was not even changed with his Easy A. Start of turn. Remember when I was talking about the temp limits? Well, start of turn is something that's playing into that whole theory. Start of turn is actually a mechanic a lot of characters have on certain pieces of their kits, like standbys, active skills, transformations, etc., in which these characters cannot transform until a certain rotation has passed. Let's take AGL Vegito Blue for example. AGL Vegito Blue cannot transform until Vegito Blue's 5th turn from start of turn. There's actually another wording which was used all the way up until 2023, almost consistently, without fail, start of battle. What this means is if a character does not start in the first rotation, which is completely RNG, a character like AGL Vegito Blue, if he starts in the 7th slot, if he's a unit on your team and not the friend lead, which means Vegito Blue cannot transform until turn 7 under 70% HP, or turn 9 with a Future Saga ally. SA Counter Update. Around when the STR Super Saiyan Goku and Exchange Gohan character came out in Golden Week of 2022, a update was made to the game in which changed the counter function of the game. Originally, characters like Super Saiyan 4 Goku, who had a 30% chance to dodge and counter enemy super attacks, actually had that effect changed to nullify the enemy's attacks and counter instead. This is a big deal because bosses that canceled dodge nullified the counters as well. But with this update, you could still nullify super attacks even when dodge was cancelled with super attack counters, which is a great design choice and a great update to the game for sure. Heroes is dubbed. Back in 2022, on the Japanese version of the game, the first ever voiced Heroes character in Hearts came out to the game, and he released at the same time on the Japanese and English versions of Dokkan Battle at the same time. The problem with this, of course, is the fact that the Japanese version actually has a voice for Hearts, while the international version doesn't. He only has a sub voice, so you would think on the international version he has a sub voice, right? No, it's just silence, even on the international version. But for some reason, they never actually fixed this. I assume it's due to rights, though that's not confirmed. They didn't really state anything, it's just really up to interpretation. A year later, the same thing happened with Limit Breaker Vegito on JP. They had voices, while the international version did not. Even after the schedules are synced, I do not believe this issue will be fixed, and I don't think it'll ever get fixed, unfortunately, especially now that Heroes is unfortunately shut down. Event tab. Remember the game's internal mess, the code? Well, the event tab is a prime example of what the messy code does to the game. The event tab is it is a disaster. There's at least 100 events in here, Dokkan events, Extreme Z areas, Super Battle Road, Boss Rush, Infinite Draggable History, Collection of Epic Battles, Intensifying Fights, Ultimate Red Zone. There's just dozens and dozens and dozens of events in here that you need to scroll through painfully slow. You need to just scroll just to find any event that you want. It's honestly funny because they did at one point earlier in the game's life cycle update this tab to look a lot better. Originally it was all just one big tab, but now it's 4 separate ones. But they need to update this again and put everything in nice organized folders like Ultimate Red Zone, Supreme Magnificent Battle, MISC events like Boss Rush, Dokkan events, Extreme Z areas. Just make everything a lot more organized. I don't really think it would take that much dev time just to put everything neatly into folders. Hell, they did it with the Dragon Ball story. Why can't they do it with this? Blood. Blood is a very interesting phenomenon in Dokkan. Some characters that should have blood, like Int Maj and Vegeta, don't have blood. But characters like Int Nam and Goku actually have blood all over their character. You would think this is because of censorship, but I honestly don't believe so. It's just a artist design choice. Whoever decided to animate the units just didn't put blood on the characters. Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4s. Remember when I talked about when Hearts came out? Well, Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta also released alongside of this Hearts. And the really sad thing is, all 3 of these characters were extremely underwhelming on release. Remember when I was talking about the power scaling in 2023 and in 2022? Well, unfortunately, despite being in the latter half of the months of 2022, these characters are still extremely mediocre. I assume they were designed a lot earlier in the year and just were never updated, which really sucks because these characters are extremely neat. Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta are some of the coolest characters in the game, but they were, even on release, god-awful or extremely situational in Goku's case. Kai Goku Chiaotzu. During the 8th anniversary, during Part 2, characters commemorating the openings of Dragon Ball, in this Kai Goku, who represented Dragon Ball Z Kai, and this Gohan, who represented the opening of Dragon Ball Z, were released into the game. For some reason, though, Kai Goku, while he, of course, mimics the Kai intro for Dragon Ball Z, Chiaotzu's actually missing from his card during the intro, and just his art in general. Not really sure why, I assume it was just forgotten by the developers and never amended. Legendary Election. Back in 2017, Dokkan themselves held an election for the next character who would like to be seen as an LR. Characters like Vegito Blue, Beerus, I believe Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, Cell and Cell Juniors were all options. Unfortunately, they haven't done anything like this since, which is just definitely a bummer. Speaking of bummers, missed KO screens. For some reason, Dokkan, with not super consistency, releases characters with iconic moments, who have iconic finishing stances, but do not decide to incorporate them as KO screens. For some reason, this Dragon Fist Goku here, when he does the Dragon Fist, which looks solid, he doesn't do the pose at the end. I assume this is because the Tech Dragon Fist Goku got his EZA, but that doesn't make any sense. Why does he not have the KO screen? The same thing with Int Maj Vegeta's Final Explosion. He doesn't have a KO screen. Well, the SSB Evolution Vegeta actually does have a KO screen. It's just weird and inconsistent. Take a shot every time I say that coming up. LR Blue Goku. Similarly to LR Kid Buu, Blue Goku by himself doesn't have an LR. Not really sure why he doesn't have one, but he doesn't. AGL Blue Kaioken Goku. Remember that whole units naming thing? Well, this is that as an entry itself. For some reason, this Blue Goku does not have his own name, despite the STR Goku, the same character releasing only 3 years later, having a completely new name, while this AGL Goku still retains the same name. I genuinely could not tell you what they were thinking with this, and why they didn't go back and update it. If characters with the same name could link, this would not be an issue, Dokkan. Come on, guys. Number play. Number play is referring to something fun Dokkan does with a lot of its characters, like with Goku, where Goku always, instead of just getting 85% attack and defense, or 200% attack on Super, Goku always has some iteration of 5-9 in his kit somewhere. This is because in Japan, 5 and 9, like in kanji, spell Goku, so Dokkan just runs with it. This is something similar with Gohan and Goten, where Goten is 510 on login day 510. For Goten, you actually get an SR Goten, or a rare awakened SR Goten, on day 510. Just little neat stuff like that Dokkan does with number play, and it gives the game a lot of personality. More on the topic of logins, AGL Hercule. On day 777, you get a really weird Hercule card. This Hercule is just weird. He heals on super attack, but he's just such a weird, strange card who has no practicality whatsoever other than the fact that he heals. Even when he came out, I wasn't personally super invested in the meta when he came out, but even when he came out, I cannot assume this guy would have been any good. He doesn't do anything. He just sits there. I guess if you give him full additionals and hidden potential system, because you can rainbow him for free, you can farm him through the friend summons, I guess. STR Rose Banner. Remember the whole Kefla debacle with stone refunds? Well, this happened, again, only a month later, pretty much, on the Japanese version of the game, where STR Goku Black, Super Saiyan Rose, his banner came out, and for some reason on the Japanese version, Super Saiyan 3 Broly, who I believe came back for the first time on here, actually had his awakened art on the banner. And because of this, it was false advertising in their eyes. And it can be seen as it, so they decided to hand out refunds to every player who summoned on this banner. For some reason, though, the same issue happened on Global pretty much, where on the Scouter, you actually saw a blue Goku over a Sin Shenron. And what's even funny, back in the day, they used to do this thing on Dual Dokkan Fest with villains and heroes, where Vegito Blue would only have superclass units on the banner, and Goku Black would only have extreme unit. Meaning this blue Goku being on here is blatant false advertising, even more so than Broly, who literally awakens into that exact card, but Global only got 1 stone as a reward compensation. It's a joke and showed clear favoritism at the time. Units buff pre-release. This is something that I hope happens again. Certain characters such as STR GT Goku who released with Super Full Power Saiyan 4 Goku, Physical Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, characters like these actually got buffed due to people complaining about character kits. For example, Gotenks on his 12 key used to damage himself and hurt you as the player. He would damage your HP. But this was changed due to Japanese players pushing back. The really sad thing is, with AGL LR Gohan, who's one of the most notorious releases in Dokkan history, had a really bad transformation condition. All over social media and X, people petitioned. It was trending all over X for Akatsuki to change Gohan's transformation condition, but it didn't do anything. Old cards made playable. So characters like STR Full Power Frieza, you know the LR, right? Well, his SSR was actually in the game since launch. There's been a lot of examples like this, such as Physical Babidi from LR Boo and Babidi's SSR. Physical Babidi being in the game since launch, pretty much. Just little things like this, of Dokkan taking old art and actually making it playable, which I think is really cool. Hopefully they do stuff like this with like Brainwash Piccolo, because that's actually a boss card you can't actually play as, and they made boss cards playable before, like the Trunks GT from the B-Pan event with AGL Trunks and Goten. 4 unit buffs. 4 characters being AGL Ginyu, Tech Super Janemba, STR Hearts, and Physical Goku and Piccolo actually got buffed. So the reason they got buffed was because for 1 turn, after their respective transformations, they got an effect. But because of the way the abilities worked, it was like really inconsistent and glitchy. So all 4 characters' transformations got an extra turn of whatever made them really good, which was not actually present in their forms before, so this was actually a buff to these characters, which was awesome. First anniversary rates. Well, something not so awesome is back during the game's first anniversary, when STR Super Gogeta released with Janemba. During the banners being live, Akatsuki went in and lowered the rates of the characters from, I believe, 7% to 5%. This is unacceptable and downright criminal. They handed out 300 stones, Japanese players, for a visual glitch, but this, I assume this is illegal. I genuinely cannot believe they decided to do this. It's genuinely jaw-dropping that they got away with this. Unbelievable. Thank God they have not tried anything like this since. SR Vegetas. Dokkan being inconsistent is just a pattern. These Vegetas, like the SRs, like this Saiyan Saga Vegeta is clearly meant to be the one shooting a guy like on a Goku, despite being in a Cell Saga outfit, being on the Saiyan Saga category with big bad bosses as a superclass unit. It just genuinely makes no sense. This Vegeta is Dokkan itself if it was a card. Tech SR Vegeta. Another SR Vegeta with an oddity. This Vegeta, for some reason, sells for 500 extra Baba points. Not really sure why, but I assume it's because he was an SSR at one point, and he was changed to an SR, and they just forgot to backspace an extra 0. That's my only guess on that. There's no explanation for this. LR Kale and Caulifla. Absolute madness ensued when this character released back in April of 2019. The game was busted inside and out. Key overflow was a thing where characters were hitting 17 times harder than they should if you got over 24 key. The game was just breaking apart at the seams. Emergency maintenances were taking place. This was on top of the fact that Kale and Caulifla at the time were just by far the best character in the entire game, just completely curb stomping all content. As a yellow coin LR, completely trumping the anniversary characters in Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. R16. This is Rare Android 16, who actually has the only instance of this effect to my knowledge, immune to negative effects. He can't be sealed, stunned, locked, or anything of the sort. He genuinely is immune to it. This has not been put on a premium character. Make it make sense, man. TG mistake. This is referring to the top grossing mistake that happened when AGL Spirit Bomb Goku came out on the global version. A notification was sent out to all players saying they hit top grossing, but there was actually no top grossing reward. They never hit top grossing. It was a mistake. This led people to believe that top grossing was actually pre-planned. Like, they plan all banners to hit top grossing, and they just send out rewards when they do, and they just don't send out rewards if they don't. But they accidentally sent the notification out on the global version by accident, and when they did this, they actually ended up handing out the top grossing rewards, which was funny. One Piece collab. In 2016, Dokkan had a collab with One Piece Treasure Cruise, which was another mobile game, which is actually very similar to Dokkan, but for One Piece. These two games collabed, and in One Piece, you got a Final Form Frieza, you got to fight one, and while in Dokkan, you got to fight the Doflamingo card in its own event, which also dropped a bunch of SSR characters that were summonable at the time. I believe like the OG SSR Super Saiyan Goku was a drop reward, as well as this Bye Guys Goku, who has never come back a single time. Not only has he not come back, but Bye Guys Goku doesn't exist in the game. He's not a character. Like, it's actually baffling how we have not seen a Bye Guys Goku yet. The thing that makes the One Piece collab so interesting, though, is obviously the Doflamingo card, but also the fact that we haven't had a collab in Dokkan since this. Standalone Gogeta Blue. Gogeta Blue has actually never received his own standalone card. It makes literally 0 sense. Take a shot every time I say that as well. Make sure to have the paramedics on standby. Anyway, though, Blue Gogeta doesn't have a standalone card. Vegito Blue has few, Gogeta Blue has none. There's 3 Blue Gogetas in the game, they're all transforming, 2 of them which are from Super Saiyan. They of course will drop a standalone one at one point, but what makes Gogeta Blue so unique other than Full Power Broly, who also doesn't have a standalone card, is back in V-Jump of 2018, this leak happened right before AGL Blue Gogeta came out. Blue Gogeta, to my knowledge, was actually originally supposed to be a standalone character, as seen by this scan right here, and as we'll get into in just a little bit, there's even more evidence backing this theory up, that he was made transforming a lot later. Originally, he was meant to be blue from start, but they changed it. I remember when this happened, people were fuming mad, and honestly, for good reason. AGL Trunks. AGL Trunks is a Dokkan Fest unit released at the end of 2021. This AGL Trunks is the only character in the entire game to actually legitimately get worse after transforming. Not really sure why they decided to design him like this, and the reason he gets worse is because he debuffs the enemy when he transforms, but at the time, all tough content could not be debuffed, and because of this, he was a completely useless transform. So you would just keep him in base form despite his transform state having amazing animations and still having great ones to this day. This guy is due for an easy A, and when he gets one, man, they better do this bastard some justice. Easy area format change. Extreme Z area was one of the most controversial additions to Dokkan, and for good reason. It's just not a really well thought out piece of content, considering how old free-to-play characters used to get their own EZBs. Now, these characters get Extreme Z areas because of the rewards just being a lot less. The problem with this was you could not actually auto these modes. They were just so redundant and boring. And even when auto was added later on in 2021, you still couldn't auto map these, meaning you were just, it's like the tournament, you could not take your eyes off your phone. And for a game like Dokkan, like, it's just not acceptable considering there's almost 10 years worth of content in the game. Thankfully though, during the 8th anniversary, they actually changed the formats of Extreme Z areas to where you can now auto them. You know what's even more funny though, during the 9th anniversary, something insane happened. The free-to-play Int Frieza's Extreme Z area stage actually has the old format in which you can't auto for some reason. This was a year after they updated the format to where you could, but this Frieza is the lone incident of this happening to where he actually has the old Extreme Z area format post-patch where you can auto map. But you can't auto map this Frieza because he's the old format. I assume this is because he was made sooner than the 8th anniversary free-to-play characters, and his event was as well, so he never got the new format. Breakers leak. Dragon Ball The Breakers celebrated its first anniversary back in October, late October last year in 2023, and then Dokkan had a data download literally days before the anniversary units were revealed, and they actually revealed Gogeta Blue and Broly for Breakers before the Breakers team themselves did, which is extremely funny how that happened, and I believe it was only on the global version too to make it even more poetic. Non-attacking standbys can attack. The Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta duo card, Int Super Saiyan 4 Goku, who can stand by an Oob. These characters can attack if they're boss characters. This Vegeta in his Dokkan event can actually attack, so can Oob as well. And Vegeta himself actually has the standby as his super attack, which I know it's obvious because the bosses need to be able to do the animation, but I think it's really cool how you can actually see the animation in 2x speed without the voice lines from the enemy perspective. And being able to see this Vegeta attack is a little cursed if you ask me. Rare cards. Back when Dokkan was a very new game, they actually handed out a lot of V-Jump pre-order cards and just very exclusive cards like this Cop Krillin, this Blue Goku, just a bunch of really rare cards like these who actually never made a return. What's really funny is though some of these rare cards, like this Goku from the 2018 3rd anniversary for Dokkan actually came back in 2021, but this Spirit Bomb Goku from the 2017 Worldwide Download Celebration and then the 2016 1st anniversary for Dokkan never came back. There's a lot of old cards like these which are trophies and are extremely hard to get, and if you have these, make sure you lock them up and don't sell them by accident. Boss actives. Similar to the non-attacking standbys that can attack, bosses actually use their active skills as super attacks, which I think is really cool. Take this Big Bang Attack Vegeta, who actually does his normal super attack, but in this Dokkan event, if you can make him last long enough, you can actually see him do his active skill as a super attack. STR Wii Symbol Goku. This Goku, for some reason, isn't on Reps Universe 7, despite this being from the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament. Make it make sense, man. Wii Symbol Super Saiyan Vegeta. He doesn't exist in the game. He only exists as a story mode asset for the Universe 6 vs 7 story event. Not sure why he's not in the game yet the Goku is, but I doubt he'd be on Reps Universe 7. 160% 12 key. A phenomenon in Dokkan is the 12 key multiplier, and the 160% one to be specific. Very specific characters such as AGL transforming Gogeta into Gogeta Blue, Tech Vegito Blue, and N-Cell Jr. for some reason have 160% 12 key multiplier. This is handed out so infrequently that you honestly forget it exists a lot of time, as 150 is the stock standard for TURs, but that Cell Jr. randomly has it as well. I'm not really sure why he does, as the other Cell Juniors don't, but it's just such an oddity, man. And it makes that Cell Jr. stick out like a sore thumb. Silent intros. This is referring to certain free-to-play characters who actually have intro animations. Intros are, of course, meant to be voiced, as they were designed to be voiced, and they have a lot of mouth movement in them. But free-to-play characters have intros, but they're not voiced. It doesn't make sense. But some LRs that are free-to-play, like Pilaf, actually do have voiced intros, and he's a free-to-play character. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's honestly really unfortunate, because the dub, and even a lot of the sublines in this game are just fantastic. And hearing the characters talk is always one of my favorite parts about playing Dokkan, as the voice lines they choose are usually really good in my opinion. And unfortunately, especially the newly recorded ones specifically for Dokkan. 80 wins. Remember the World Tournament? Well, you need 30 wins? Well, you used to need 80 wins. You don't anymore, thankfully, unless you're going for crazy high rewards, which I don't recommend. Unused GT Vegeta. This GT Vegeta you see on screen, it was used in the AGL Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta Dokkan event in 2017, and used for the Super Saiyan GT Vegeta Dual Dokkan Fest with Super Saiyan GT Goku that does the cameo attack into the Super Saiyan 4 forms. And the funny thing is, they actually never used this Vegeta for a card. Though it might make a little bit of sense though, because this GT Vegeta is actually just a reskin of Tech Majin Vegeta. It's clear after you see them both next to each other that they're just reskins of each other. The big question is though, which one was made first? Int Hercule Bug. Int Hercule, when the Cell Max event originally came out in 2022, was bugged to where I believe his 90% damage reduction was up at all times, making him a extremely easy win button for that event. Unfortunately, this bug was patched soon after the event came out, but I assume a good amount of people completed the event with him on the team, thankfully. SA revamps. Something Dokkan used to do was back in the day, and I believe the last time this was done, it was in 2020, they used to take old characters and give them newly updated, fresh animation. For example, in 2019, as we'll get into a little bit later, Int LR Gohan had his super attack revamped. His 18 key was revamped to be much more modernized. And then in 2020, AGL Majin Vegeta's 12 key was revamped. And then a little bit later, they actually revamped LR First Form Frieza's 18 key super attack. But after that, they haven't changed a single super attack, other than, of course, its general changes like bug fixes and all that. It's genuinely sad how they have not gone back to this, as it brought new life into old units without technically needing to EZA them. I really, really hope, even over some other changes, that they do this again. This was so awesome, man. Please, Dokkan. Convulsing Rage Goku. Just the strangest banner unit you've ever seen. This Goku was removed on the LR Bojack banner, but then reintroduced in the 2021 Worldwide Download Celebration with the Dokkan Awakening. Yet he has 5 links when he awakens, and he reuses a super attack of the TUR Namek Goku, who for some reason also has his own unique super attack. This Goku is just like an extremely strange card who also doesn't have any sagas. Just genuinely the strangest card in the entire game. Maybe right before, though, Tech Final Form Frieza. Tech Final Form Frieza, once again, is a very strange banner unit who was removed with this Convulsing Rage Goku, but unlike him, he never returned to the pool of general SSRs. This is because this Tech Final Form Frieza technically gets worse after Dokkan Awakening, as he awakens into an SSR with worse links. And he also awakens into Golden Frieza, who's also in the Planet Namek saga. It doesn't make sense, dude. It doesn't make sense. TUR Evo Ken sprite. Around when LR Ribrianne came out, the TUR specifically of Evo Ken, the Blue Kaioken Goku Evolution Blue Vegeta LR that EZA during 9th anniversary, their TUR sprite was updated to be super HD and crisp. This usually happens when they're planning to do something with this sprite specifically in the future, meaning we're probably going to be getting a Blue Goku and Vegeta from the Tournament of Power in these outfits coming up relatively soon, probably within the year. Crinkly active audio. Back in the day, Dokkan's active skill audio used to sound god awful, dude. I mean, if you could just hear like just how bad the quality sounded with some of them. And with Int Kid Goku, I mean, you just prayed your phone speakers would break or something. It was really bad. Though, thankfully, around the time of Worldwide 2020, they thankfully fixed the audio quality on these actors, and they all sound fantastic. It's just a shame they don't record a lot of Dokkan unique dialogue for a lot of them. Though it makes sense, I guess, budgetary constraints and allocating resources and whatnot. Thank You 2017 Global. During the Thank You celebration of 2017, this is usually the celebration in which the Golden Week units would release on the international version, and this was Int Super Gogeta and STR Super Janemba. This celebration on the Japanese version was fantastic, but on the global version, it was just 150 times worse. The game was down all day during Thanksgiving. Everyone got 20 stones as compensation, and the banners were god awful as well back in the day. On the Japanese version, Tech Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku, Physical Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks was on it, but on the global version, it was like Int Spirit Bomb Hope Sword Trunks, like Int Blue Vegeta. It was a disaster back in the day. Thankfully, stuff like this will never happen again. The games are on the same timeline. Physical Ultimate Gohan's global intro. This is a very strange oddity with Physical Ultimate Gohan. Despite the fact he can't go beast, this Gohan's intro on global is weird. On JP it looks normal, but on global for some reason, if you look at his head and body, they're shaded completely differently. And after you notice it, you're never going to unsee it. This Gohan, every time I use him, I just cannot stop looking at the improperly shaded features of this Gohan. And on the Japanese version, it's completely normal, and they have not fixed this issue. My only hope is that they'll fix this when they EZA this guy. Which, thinking about it, I guess could be within the next 2 years, huh? AGL Transforming Goku Super Saiyan God error. Transforming Goku in his Super Saiyan God form actually has the wrong Super Saiyan God aura. If you look at Int Super Saiyan God Goku here, he actually has the correct aura, but the Transforming Goku doesn't. He's missing the giant red flare that the Int one also has. And if you look closely, you can see AGL Transforming Goku's aura under the big flare. And what's also funny is the Physical Dokkan Fest God Goku is actually missing the AGL Transforming Goku's Super Saiyan God's form's aura in his aura, and he only has the red flare. There's like 100 different things wrong with Super Saiyan God Goku's aura. I don't know, man. I just noticed it. I'm just reporting it. In Goku Black's SSR, there's this really neat shot in his SSR that isn't actually in his TUR for some reason. Not really sure why they removed it, but it looked really cool. Fizz DBS Broly Golden Frieza Sprite. In 2018, during the Broly movie celebration, a bunch of free characters were added to the game in Blue Goku, Blue Vegeta, DBS Broly, where they all got nice new looking sprites. But Golden Frieza for some reason didn't. I'm not really sure why. I guess they didn't feel like he needed one in the new art style, but they never gave him one. You would think it's because he's free, but why did Goku and Vegeta and Broly get one? Broly makes sense as he's a new character, but Goku and Vegeta, they have the same art style. Though their hair's a little bit different, but they didn't do anything for Frieza. It's very sad. TUR Namek. This is referring to Int Super Saiyan Goku, the one released during the 2021 Worldwide celebration from Namek. His TUR art actually was changed on the Japanese version to the global version that we know now with the blue shading, but originally he just had his normal skin color. This was updated later on, I believe it was like a week after he came out, so it was really, really fast that it was changed. But if you noticed it, it was actually kind of cool. I definitely prefer the new version, and thankfully they have it as the new version now. LR Gods' intro. As the first characters, technically, with intros, the LR Super Saiyan Gods have a really good looking intro with really nice voice lines that sound great even today. Very excited for their EZA. But anyway, these guys' intro, for some really weird reason, have a really big inconsistency. Goku is actually moving his mouth in the beginning, but halfway through they just stop moving their mouths when they talk. This is the only animation this really happens with, other than Physical Angel Gold and Frieza and 17 during their active skill, where 17 moves his mouth, but Angel Gold and Frieza just keeps his mouth shut while he talks. It's genuinely the most distracting thing on the planet. Tech Omega. Back in the day, dude, they used to do raid bosses in Dokkan. Every year they would do a 999 stage raid, or technically 100. You really only need to hit 100, but you could hit 999 for extra rewards, where you just fight a boss all the way up till stage 100. And they used to do unique bosses. In 2018, they actually did a Jiren boss. In 2019, they did 2 with this Tech Omega and then this Physical Cell. This Tech Omega, though, actually has his own super attack. And I was just waiting. I would just assume they were going to use this Tech Omega super attack with LR Omega, but they didn't. This Tech Omega's super attack is still completely different, and his art is not used either. It's just, he's just sitting there as a boss character for some reason. Hopefully they do something with this guy. Maybe make him a free card, Dokkan. They also have a Chain Battle Omega, too, that they could do something with. Right there. That's a free-to-play Omega with a Dokkan Awakening for you, Dokkan. Korra. Oh, God. Back in the day, Cooler's name used to be Korra. Just some dub translation nonsense. It was like this in Legends, too. It wasn't like this in any other game, though. It was only the mobile games. This was later fixed, though, to be cooler. Chance buffs. Back when STR Super Janemba got his EZA, medium chance was actually not always a 30% chance, and high chance was not always a 50% chance. Originally, medium chance could either be 25 or 30, and medium chance could be 45 or 50. But when STR Janemba got a super easy, every single character who had a medium or high chance to get a certain buff in their passives had their chances guaranteed bumped up to 30 or 50 respectively. A fantastic update in Dokkan history, just like the Super Tech Counter update. Dokkan, I plead with you to do more stuff like this. This is great. LR, G, and F KO. This was LR Goku and Frieza. They had a KO screen originally. It was removed. I don't know, man. I love this KO screen. It's gone now, though. It looks great, though, still. Int GT Goku Sprite. Back during the 4th anniversary, we got a free-to-play GT Goku from that Tech Omega raid I was talking about a little bit ago. This GT Goku actually had his own sprite originally, where he didn't have a tail, but a tail was later added in through a data download due to Japanese player feedback. I cannot believe they listened to this, but not AJLR Gohan, dude. 5-year quest hiatus. The quest mode in 2017, the middle of it to be specific, was not actually updated for 5 years until 2022 when they started updating quests again. During that time, link leveling was a thing. We manually had to link level in 23.8, just manually landing on Cyberman spots and hoping we'd get link levels and missing many spots along the path. It was really bad, but thankfully they updated quest mode in 2022, and now we have a bunch of nice link leveling stages, which we can also nicely grind gems from too. And blue incredible gems, which are a nice new currency. Speaking of currencies, Baba EZA medal. This medal is in the Baba shop, available for purchase this moment. Though this is only used to EZA a single character, which was EZA'd in 2020, not a single other character from the Baba shop uses this medal. Not even the physical Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku from the Baba shop. He has his own medals. I don't know what they're planning to do with this medal, but it's just sitting in the shop for no reason. Just change the icon of Krillin at this point, man. V-Jump, Gogeta, and Broly. Remember when I was talking about the standalone Gogeta Blue? Well, there was actually another page to that specific V-Jump leak. Look at this right here. This Gogeta Blue is actually a Tech Gogeta Blue, and he's a standalone Gogeta Blue too, with completely new aura, and he's fighting a Broly, which is also completely unique. Though that Broly is actually used in the Super Attack for the physical one, and that Tech Gogeta, I believe, is used in the story event for Dragon Ball Super Broly. The thing is, though, these arts are never used anywhere else in the game, and Broly, and then Gogeta's aura is completely different in the final game. This leads me to believe this Gogeta right here was the SSR or TUR of that Gogeta we saw in the V-Jump leak before they decided to change it to where Gogeta's transforming instead with his own art. This one makes me sad because I just genuinely think AGL Gogeta would have been probably a better release if he was standalone as Gogeta Blue, and then the physical Gogeta would have been the first transforming Gogeta from Super Saiyan. I love that Gogeta still, man, but with his Easy A, for example, the Blue Gogeta form is still really good, while the base form, not so much. I just think he would have been a better release as a standalone Gogeta Blue, despite me loving the Super Saiyan form, man. Missing auras. Certain characters, such as Tech Super Gogeta, who actually had this fixed, where he was missing his aura, AGL Full Power Jiren the LR, Int Goku Black. Many characters like this are actually missing auras for some reason. I'm not really sure why they're missing them, but they just forgot to put them on. Like, AGL Full Power Jiren as an LR in his transformed state is completely missing his aura. You could also argue his base form is also missing it, considering how the STR Jiren actually has his own aura, while the AGL Jiren untransformed, unstandby state also does not have aura. This is just the case for a few characters who just don't have auras for some reason when they definitely should. Global exclusive wallpaper. In a really crazy twist of fate, Global actually got an exclusive wallpaper for Dragon Ball Heroes of all things. The World Mission release actually gave the global version its own World Mission exclusive theme wallpaper that the Japanese version actually never received for some reason. I don't really know why the Japanese version never got it, considering how World Mission was also released in Japan, but it's just something to keep in mind that Global actually got this, but JP never did. Very strange, man. Level 79 statue. Around the time of the 2017 Worldwide Download Celebration, they handed out a level 79 Hercule statue, which you could later sell for Zenny. Most people kept this in their box just as a trophy, so to speak. Unfortunately, this was later fixed and it was changed to a level 80 statue at some point in Dokkan's future since that event happened. Definitely unfortunate. I really wish they left it as the level 79 statue. Just a fun trophy of past Dokkan. Summonable URs. This is something that actually happened a bit recently. On the Japanese version, there was a 100 stone multi you could do in which you could pull Dokkan Awakened characters, either URs or even LRs. This was something you could also do back in the day. You can actually pull the Z Awakened characters from the banners as URs, and you can actually do this on Global right now with the Hercules Fortune Summon tickets. 5th Annie Unused Piccolo. During the 5th anniversary livestream, this Piccolo art was actually shown during the stream, but to this day, we do not know where this Piccolo has come from or what he was ever used for. A very strange card, but I believe he probably was used for that tech free-to-play Piccolo from Baba Show. Official Legends collab. So back in 2019, Dokkan and Legends had a collab where they actually collabed with a wallpaper. This is the only time each other has really acknowledged each other's existence in any form of capacity. They never collabed in game, they just gave out this wallpaper and then haven't done anything since. Nerfed AGL LR Gohan. We know how bad AGL LR Gohan's condition is, right? Well, originally, according to iSeriously, or one of the French data miners back in the day, LR Gohan was so overpowered that they actually ended up nerfing his original kit to what he is now. Well, what he was pre-EZA back then. He was so broken, apparently they just changed him, and this is why he is the way he is, and why his transformation was never changed, because he was just too good before he came out. As far as we know, we don't actually have details of what his original passive is, so take it with a grain of salt, but this was coming from reputable leakers at the time. Pilaf Trove branding change. Something I haven't seen talk about ever is Pilaf's Trove, and the fact that its branding was changed. It's not called Pilaf's Trove on Global anymore. Look for any terminology referencing Pilaf's Trove and you will never find it. It's not called Pilaf's Trove. It was when it came out, but sometime in the 2020s they changed it entirely to where it's not Pilaf's Trove. It's just like the special shop or whatever. Not really sure why they got rid of the branding, as it gave it a little bit more personality, but they changed it, and it's still referred to as Pilaf Trove though, as it just rolls off the tongue better, so to speak, and it's just how we remember it. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. 9 Golden Friezas. These 9 Golden Friezas are just like the 9 wonders of Dokkan itself. Tech Gotenks' title. Tech Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks' title was actually completely different at one point, and this is the only instance in which they've ever changed the title of a character. It was originally Grim Reaper of Death's Rampage, when it was later changed when he got his EZA to Grim Reaper of Justice's Rampage. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. The old title was better. Battlefield 1.0, way back in 2017. A similar thing that happened with Chain Battle happened with Battlefield. A new mode in Dokkan, which was like a literal tower defense mode in the game. I got to play one season of it way back in 2017, and it was really fun. I was a new player at the time, so I didn't have a box or anything. But this mode was just essentially a tower defense mode in Dokkan, which gave you like the battlefield currency, and it was just similar to Battlefield as we know it with the enemies, but you needed to play a really fun minigame before it. It was later revamped a year later into Battlefield 2.0, which I personally think is worse. Battlefield 2.0 has its own merits in some aspects, but I just don't think you can beat something so different, yet so fun and fresh, and something that I feel like fits with Dokkan's playstyle really well like Battlefield 1.0 did. Super Strike Android 16 and Mighty Mask. These two Super Strikes were victims of their time and circumstance, being the first two Super Strike EZAs. These two Super Strike characters actually did not get new super attacks when they EZA'd and Dokkan Awakened. Every Super Strike character other than these two got completely new super attacks when they Dokkan Awakened. Though King Cold technically reuses LR King Gold and Golden Frieza's super attack, their 12 key. And what's funny about that King Cold is, during his 12 key, when he shoots the Death Beam at the enemy, you can actually see the Death Beam hit the enemy twice as if it was the actual LR Mecha Frieza and King Cold 12 key, despite King Cold being the only one shooting it. Genuinely sad how this is still a problem in the game that they never fixed. It just reeks of laziness. Coeb Vegeta. This is referring to Collection of Epic Battles Vegeta. In the first stage where you fight the heroes of Namek, there's this really weird Vegeta in his Namek Saga outfit that is not used anywhere in the game. This Vegeta was added in 2018 as an Awakening medal for a Vegeta story event, but was never made playable. And in 2021, he was actually added as a boss card in this event. During part 2, we all suspected this Vegeta was going to be used as the LR TUR art, because we knew it was going to be an Namek Saga Vegeta. But they didn't use this art. They completely drew 3 new pieces of art for that Vegeta. This art is just unused. It's just a boss card, and it also has its own super attack. I really hope they do something with this, man. I really like his art. Enemy Super Saiyan God difference. Remember the 85 entries about Super Saiyan God Goku's aura? Well, I mean, Super Saiyan God as an enemy actually is completely different than the one we're used to playing as. Remember earlier when I was talking about like the 10 differences between the Super Saiyan God auras? Well, there's one more. When the enemy is a Super Saiyan God Goku, who's supposed to have like the flaring red aura, the enemy for some reason uses the AGL transforming Super Saiyan God Goku aura, even if it's like the Int God Goku. For some reason, they never actually coded that really good looking God Goku aura for an enemy's perspective. Which doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's not the biggest deal, but it's just something I notice every time I fight a God Goku enemy. I had to put it on here. Shenron Anim. This is referring to the old summon animations and the Shenron animation, which was the rarest animation in history. It was so rare to get it, and it only guaranteed an SSR. Old Int LR Gohan super attack. Remember super attack revamps? Well, this one, thank God they hit before they stopped doing those. This super attack, I mean, to call this thing a super attack before it got revamped is an insult to super attacks. They simulated walking by moving his PNG forward. For a summonable unit that was unfeatured that could cost thousands of dollars to pull. Actually disgusting, dude. Thank God they changed it. Int free-to-play GT Goku alternate super attack. Remember that GT Goku I was talking about that got a new sprite? Well, this GT Goku actually is a boss in the Dokkan event for the 8th anniversary GT Duo card. And this GT Goku, when he supers, doesn't do his normal super attack. He actually does the standby animation for Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and GT Goku when they're in their standby form. This free-to-play Goku actually does the animation. And what's even funnier is, unless it was changed, they actually cut the Vegeta part out of the animation too, which is just really weird. It's cool, but it's really strange. I assume they keep it the same and they haven't added Vegeta back into the animation, but if they did, regardless, it's still really cool that they did this. As they could have just given him the other super attack and just called it a day, right? Playable Beast before Ninth Danny. Well, this is actually similar to the last entry. Beast Gohan, if you look at it from like the type of glasses that just completely cancels out everything else but reason, Gohan Beast was technically playable before the 9th anniversary. In his Dokkan event, he had a very rare chance of going Beast Gohan when he did a super attack. This is because this Gohan that you fight in the Dokkan event is actually a boss card with 3 different super attacks. And his 3rd super attack is actually the Special Beam Cannon. Technically, if you were able to play as him and you hit the Special Beam Cannon every time, you're technically playing as Beast Gohan, right? 2 LR Vegito Blue buffs. This is the only unit to my knowledge in history that has gotten 2 buffs. 2 separate ones. On Global, when he was released, which it was a global first character, he actually had Over in a Flash Change and Prepared for Battle, which is just factually a buff. And then on JP, when he Easy A due to feedback, he actually got another buff to where his kit was made a lot better. He's the only character in history to get 2 buffs. I really hope they just do something like Dokkan balance changes in the future and makes it so that characters get buffs after release without needing an Easy A. AGL-TN Super Strike. We all know the Super Strike characters, right? Those guys, the ones that got Easy A's and all that, the one we just talked about, Super Strike 16, Mighty Mask. Well, TN, when he got his Super Strike, something that I know nobody except me has seen, when his event came out, his TUR super attack was glitched. It was originally the Dodon Ray, but it did the Tri-Beam animation, and it was just like the strangest thing ever, but it was fixed, and I can no longer show footage of it. It happened. I know source, trust me, bro, but it happened. I had footage. I don't know where it went. If I find it, I'll try to do something with it, but unfortunately, I have no footage of this happening. But only the boss card, just in the 3rd stage specifically, did the Tri-Beam with the Dodon Ray animation. It did the Dodon Ray with the Tri-Beam animation. It's just the strangest thing ever, dude. Fizz Jiren. Remember Tech Omega and the raid bosses we were talking about? Well, unlike the Tech Omega, who was never made playable, and the Physical Cell, who was also never made playable but has a reused super attack, this Physical Jiren was made playable. But unlike Tech Omega, who's just completely inaccessible, this Jiren is half inaccessible. For one, this one's physical. The one we can play as is technically Tech. And this Jiren has his own super attack that the Tech Jiren does not have. Take a look. Old LR Super Saiyan 4 is buffed pre-release. Remember AGL LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku and SCR Super Saiyan 4 Vegito? Well, these guys actually originally had passive skills that we know of before they were released. Originally, their passive skills were just defense plus 80% or attack, depending if it was Goku or Vegeta. And then they got either attack or defense plus 20%, I believe up to 80% every single turn pass. And that was it. And I believe the super attack counters. Those were their original passive skills before they were buffed pre-release. Dude, this is leaked by the same person who were talking about the nerfed AGLR Gohan entry. I believe it was iSeriously or one of the French data miners. Feel free to let me know if you know exactly which French data miner it was in the comments. I know for a fact this is a thing though. Electro Eclipse Bomb. Originally, Super 17 Super Attack was called a Shocking Death Ball, as it is in a lot of Dragon Ball games. But when Tech Super 17 came out, the LR, it was actually changed on the AGL one to Electro Eclipse Bomb, as that's what he says in the actual dub, like in Legends, for example, and in the Tech Super 17 active skill. Type change Dokkan Awakening. Still, the only character to actually change typing after Awakening is this overflowing Resolve Goku, who on Global awakens into an AGL character. He's Tech. He awakens into an AGL character, and on JP, this Tech Goku awakens into an SR Goku, who's an SSR on Global, and is actually used to be able to farm Super Attack from Global, but not JP. It's a disaster, dude. It's just one of these weird version differences that will never get fixed to our knowledge. Time of this recording, we don't know if they're going to fix it, but only time will tell if they do something with this guy. Hopefully they do. Like, give JP the AGL Goku. I believe that Goku was given out in JP for a Goku Day gift in 2017, though correct me if I'm wrong on that, please. Category additions. Remember Super Attack revamps? Well, this is similar to that. But this is actually a gameplay-centric change. They literally they actually added characters that need to be on categories to categories that exist in the game. For instance, they actually added Full Power Frieza to Full Power when he wasn't on the category, but they haven't added stuff since, like Cell Max to Planetary Destruction, for example. They stopped doing this in 2021. I pray they add this back and add like Gogeta to Pure Saiyans and stuff. It just doesn't make sense why he's not on it. There's no reason for it. No image Vegito. Back in 2018, during the Chinese New Year celebration, the SR Vegito that dropped nowadays from the Physical Super Vegito event was actually added to Global early. This SR Vegito wasn't in the game when the game came out, or when the event came out, but was actually later added when Physical Super Vegito came out as a farmable way for base Vegitos. Weirdly though, for some reason this Vegito was added Global early, and he wasn't fully there, as for some reason, like the art wasn't there, and he was just represented as no image. And he functioned completely as a unit, but he was just all glitchy visually, but he functioned actually properly. And the Majin Buu Saga category, which he led, was actually in the game with his leader skill, as he was a Majin Buu Saga leader on the Japanese version. Because of this, Physical Super Vegeta was literally released like a week later as a way to cover up this whole thing happening. Remove categories. We all know how they can't remove categories from characters, right? Well, This is actually not true, as this actually happened one time. Well, two if you want to be specific. In 2018, when Reps of Universe 7 came out, on global only, this physical blue Goku and Tech Blue Vegeta were on Reps of Universe 7. However, sometime after they came out, they were actually removed from the category. Only on global, as they were only on the category on global, and everyone got 1 stone for it. This, to my knowledge, is the only time a character was removed from a category. Thumb changes. Certain characters like LR Gohan and Goten actually had their icons changed in the actual game, just to more represent what's actually happening in the card art. Global Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta disaster. Back in June of 2018 on global, just randomly in a data download, this Tech Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta was just added to people's boxes randomly. This was originally a substitute for the Heroes units not being on global, so they released the Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta as a global exclusive character at the time. And he when the data download happened, he was added to people's boxes just randomly. And what followed suit was a day-long maintenance of Dokkan just trying to just fix this crazy mistake. People were giving this Vegeta Kais, duping him out with hidden potential orbs, just all this crazy stuff that caused the game to just go into absolute chaos, that they actually had to revert the server to a previous state before the data download ever happened. I believe this is actually the only time this has ever happened to, where they actually reverted the server to a previous state and time. This was crazy. Nothing like this has ever happened since. SSBKK summon animation. Even through the new summon animations added over the years, this Blue Cock and Goku animation remained in the file since 2018 and was never used. It was never used. We don't know what it was for. Dokkan Fest guaranteed, we don't know. Maybe they'll add it one day, maybe with Resurrection F or Universe 6 vs 7 animations, or Tournament of Power animations or something. We don't know. We don't know what they're going to do with this animation, or if they'll ever do anything with it. Hopefully they do something, though. Well, that's about it for the Ultimate Dokkan Battle Iceberg. Dokkan Battle is one of my favorite mobile games, and I've been playing it for as long as I can remember. I really like the game, and I just wanted to just share a ton of entries that like I've picked up while playing the game myself. Just seeing a bunch of stuff happening, just seeing what people have to say. Just like I just wanted to just share my input on Dokkan, just all these facts regarding the game, and I hope you guys learned something new from this video. If you guys did, that's awesome, and I hope you all enjoyed. But regardless, I'm all out of time for today, so I'll catch you all in the next video. I hope you all enjoyed this one. Peace out.